Hey, what's up guys, it's Marv and welcome back to another Asphalt 8 video. Today I am driving the Dodge Dart X Edition in multiplayer. When I made the 10-year anniversary video, I got the Dodge Dart X in its special event and I used my ultimate upgrade on it. So now it's at rank 1772 and it's basically at the top of A class. Now I'm not super familiar with the meta of Asphalt 8 nowadays, especially after all of the updates, including the very awful nerf to my Audi TT. Please game off, give it 300 miles an hour. But anyway, back to the Dodge Dart X Edition. I was very excited to drive this car in multiplayer because it's been a while since I've had a king of A class to drive. Now unfortunately in classic multiplayer, where the matchmaking is based off of your car rating, was not very kind to me and I couldn't really find any races in A class. So I switched to Master Season. Maybe I was going to try my luck against possibly some S-Class Kings and see how this car performed, and to my surprise, it performed pretty decently. Now, I didn't win a lot of races. If there was a rank 1862 car in there and they were a good driver, that just wasn't really gonna happen. But I had some pretty close battles where I ended up winning, and I did get a lot of second place finishes. So I will say, if you can put all of the boosts on this car, including the tuning kit, then I think it's actually pretty darn good in Master multiplayer. But otherwise, I would definitely recommend sticking to Classic, because this thing I can imagine will absolutely dominate in Classic multiplayer. Well, frankly, because it's ahead of everything else in its class except for a couple of cars. So if you'll notice in the races where I used the tuning kit, which should be most of them, the max top speed of this car is exactly 300 miles an hour, which is pretty close to some of the S-Class cars. But if they are using a tuning kit, which, let's be honest, pretty much everyone in multiplayer is using all three boosts, is about 10 to 15 miles an hour slower. So unfortunately, you will fall behind in those straightaways, but I did find that the handling of this car was a bit two-faced. On one hand, I did a lot of nice sharp corners with this car, but on the other hand, I felt like this car was very unstable. There were a lot of times, and you may see a couple of those in the video, where I start sliding and lose all speed and control of the car, which I know is a bug that can be common in some Asphalt 8 cars, but it really felt like this car had those bugs a lot more often than a lot of the other cars. I know for the most part it happens with really fast cars, but when I'm driving my Pininfarina Battista and some of my other S-Class cars, I don't experience it as much as I do with the Dodge Dart X Edition. So that's quite unfortunate. Hopefully they can solve that in a future update. It wasn't deal breaking, but it was just a bit annoying because I believe there was one race, I don't think I'll put it in the video because I crashed, but what happened was I was racing against a Bugatti Bolide and I was doing very well on Rio, but then all of a sudden the car just skid out of control and I slammed into a wall, and I ended up finishing second place in that race. But I feel like I maybe could have squeaked out a first place victory if it weren't for that one bug. So that was quite unfortunate. But that is to say that if you are a very good driver, I would say that this is going to be quite competitive in even Master multiplayer. But again, it just depends on your competition, because if you are going up, like I said, against a rank 1862 car and they are a good driver, you're just simply not going to be faster than them. Especially because if they go fast next to you, you're going to get knocked down, which is quite an annoying part of Asphalt multiplayer. But overall, I'm definitely glad that I decided to use my ultimate upgrade on this car. Now I have a definite A-Class King, and I already had quite a few really good S-Class cars. Like I said, I have the Pininfarina Battista at max, and I have the Dodge Tomahawk. So there really wasn't a good reason for me to try and buy another good S-Class car and use the ultimate upgrade on it, because I think the only other car in A class that is competitive with the Dodge Dart X that I have is the 9FF GT9 VMAX, and it's so expensive to upgrade that I don't believe mine is fully upgraded even after a couple of years of owning the car. So I'm glad that I got the Dodge Dart X. I'm glad I had the ultimate upgrade. Now all I have to do is, I believe I have to get a very good C-Class car. I don't think I have a king of that. I think for now the Ferrari P4 is my best C-Class car, but that's quite a few cars away from the king of C-Class, and I don't know if I have a B-Class king either. So I have a very good D-Class car. I'm always going to use my Audi TT, but for now I also have the Aston Martin DB7, I believe it is, or it could be the DB9, but I have that. I have the Dodge Dart X edition, and I have the Pininfarina Batista. So I've secured a couple of kings of the multiplayer classes in Asphalt 8, so I just have a couple to go, and I've rounded up quite a few free upgrades, so I'm sure I'll get those soon. I'm sure I can pick out a car and go for it. If you have any recommendations for good cars that I can get in C and B class, let me know in the comment section down below, because I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say, especially because, like I said, I'm not really in tune with the Asphalt 8 meta. So I'd really appreciate you guys letting me know what you guys think are the best cars in Asphalt 8. But other than that, I really do enjoy playing with this car just because I love the meme of the Dodge Dart being the king of the game, and I'm happy that it came true, at least to the extent in A class. It would have been kind of neat if they did a full-on S-class car king, but that kind of would have broke the meta, especially if they gave out the car for free. Then everyone would just play with the Dodge Dart and nothing else, which, believe me, I think would have been very, very funny, but I think for balance's sake, it was a good idea that they didn't do it. I also love the fact that this is a moving decal. I think the side of this car looks quite cool, and I'm glad they put that cool body kit and spoiler on it. It would have been also funny though if they left the car completely stock and it just also went 300 miles an hour. That would have been quite funny. But either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video about the Dodge Dart X in Asphalt 8 multiplayer. Let me know in the comment section down below if you want to see any more Asphalt 8, and I will catch you guys in the next one.